Welcome to part 2 of the Model Maker for Unity demonstration video. I will go over some of the features in more detail to give you a better understanding of how they work and what you can achieve with it. One of these is the edge style. So currently it's set to fully hard edge, meaning that every single quad has its own normal direction. But we can change this to be either only vertically or only horizontally smoothened, and lastly also to be it fully smoothed, so then the normal on each quad has been smoothened out. One of my favorite components is the indentation component, which allows you to make an indent controllably through the shape. So you can set it to be maximum and then you get a fully hollow tube that you can fly through. So there we go. You can let it start from one side, both sides, or mirrored. If we change this to a different shape, so for example let's go with the letter H, you'll see that it's not really working that well. That's because it's currently set to scaled mode. So as we change the width, it just scales the shape to the center, and that won't really work for a more complex shape than like this. But it can also be set to constant, so that the shape tries to retain its shape essentially as much as possible. If you go overboard, of course, you will still clip through it will still clip through itself. But just like this, we can now create a partially hollow or fully hollow shape with more variety than just a simple shape like hexagons and squares, etc. Now let's take a look at the scale curve. So the scale curve allows you to change essentially the width or the height of the shape in general as it's moving over the path. So here let's change it to a couple of varying shapes. As we assign these shapes, we can get some pretty interesting results, and we can also control how many times this shape needs to repeat over the curve. So for example, something like this, repeated 10 times, we get these weird little star shapes over the path. But we also have the option to make these scale curves work differently over the length and over the width. So if we make another scale curve and assign that to the width, and over the width I will just assign something, for example, just simply flat, and let's over the length make something like this. Let's make the shape a bit easier to distinguish. For example, a square. We can now see that the shape on its width is actually still the same, while over the length it will change shape. So if we make them the same as before, then we can see that again it's as if we had assigned 1, but now we still do have the choice of adjusting the scale in general. So if we now make this a bit flatter, we've essentially given ourselves the choice here to radically change how the shape reacts over the different axes. Back in part 1 I showcased how we could create a lifting weight and get the weights on either side of the handle, so whenever the handle changes the rest of the shape can just follow it, and that holds true for many other more complex models, like for example this sword, where if I want to change the handle, like the rest of the sword can just adjust with it and doesn't have to change. Or perhaps you want it to change according to your own set of rules for how the model behaves, but by default it will just move with it. This is also great for if you have to create something dynamically at runtime and there are some changing conditions. Maybe you have different characters with different sizes and you want the sword to change in its size, or it becomes two-handed. Those type of changes are then way easier to implement if you don't have to create all kinds of models for if there's like infinite variety possible. We have the indentation script working on the edges here for the hilts, so that it can make this nice little edge. There is on the blades we have made use of the shape curves to define our shapes. So as we change this here, we'll get a different shape. We have the automatically generated dynamic resolution. So based on these curves, we know that this part is just perfectly straight, so there's not that much resolution needed here, but then where it curves and forms a point, we want it to be nice high resolution. We can change that to however we want. And I hope that this video has made it clearer on how you can create your models with this tool, and that it allows for quite a wide range of models to be made with it. Please take a look at the Unity Asset Store for more information and let me know what you think in the comments.